All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Course Creator Community Podcast. I'm your host, Jono, and I am super excited because we have an absolute rock star on the line this week. Now, I know I say that about every guest every week, but this person actually is. Little bit about him. He's sold over $1.1 million worth of online courses using nothing but testimonials and affiliates. And it's an amazing story of how he did it. There's some really good highs and some really good lows. That's what he's going to tell us about today. So without further ado, let me introduce the one and only John Hubbard from Get Better Testimonials. John, how are
Hey,
you?
Jono. G'day, Jono. Great to be here. Thank you for having me on.
No, thanks for coming on. I forgot the best part of your introduction. He's a fellow Aussie like me.
Absolutely.
John, do you want to give the listeners just a really quick overview? Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started in video marketing in and around, I think, 2002, and was plucked out of film school by a company that did a lot of work for Ford and so on. And I was literally doing testimonials from day one. I rolled up to this. It was actually at a convention center, and it was a job for Ford. And I brought my camera along because I was dead keen to film. I was a big fan of Top Gear, which was on at the time. And the producer wouldn't let me pull the camera out of the bag. My job was to line up people to do the vox pop or the testimonial about the car. And I can actually remember saying to the producer, "Why are we filming these guys instead of not filming the car?" And he said to me, "Because social proof trumps features and benefits." And I didn't know what social proof was. I literally had to go home and Google it. Um, and so that was my first day that I was impacted by social proof and testimonials. And from there, I became a camera operator and then became an editor and a producer. And then left that job. I did 10 years of agency land, then left that job in 2010 to start my own education business and had to learn how to sell online and sell online courses.
Well, let's dive into that. This is the Course Creator Community Podcast. Everyone here wants to learn how to sell more online courses. You've sold a few of them in your time. Let's get to the story, John. I've read about it. You've sent me a message and I've got the overview, but break it down for the listeners. Start where you want to start. Let's hear it.
Yes. So we started in 2013. I teamed up with a property investor, author. Her name's Jane Slack-Smith. So she already had a profile. I had, I guess, the production side of it and what I thought was marketing knowledge. But it turned out it wasn't the marketing knowledge that I needed. So we spent 9 months and gave it too much production value. Filmed in a studio, teleprompter, the whole bit. 9 months later, after all that work, Jane was keen to speak to a marketing agency to make sure that all that work didn't go to waste and we were able to market it properly. And they were all too willing to kind of come in and make all these recommendations. So we ended up with brochures and websites and all sorts of stuff. And then on the day we turned it live, we kind of sat there and waited for the sales to come in and nothing really happened. And in the end, we got, I think, 6 sales, one of which refunded, and we just kind of sat there staring at each other, absolutely devastated, because we told our partners and everyone else how, this was going to be a big deal and we were going to be, making, royalties like ZZ Top and nothing happened really. So kind of licked our wounds and had to rethink the whole how to launch an online course.
Well, let's break some of that down. Can we talk numbers? Can we talk how much you spent on the studio, the
Yeah,
teleprompter, marketing?
the studio I had access to, so it was more the time. It was like hundreds of hours basically. And by the time you thought about writing the scripts and then doing the recording and then doing the editing. Now I had some of those skills from a production background, but it was still hours that I could have been working. Earning some decent money. So it'd be hard to put a figure on it, but I think it'd be over $100,000 anyway.
Gotcha. And time-wise, you said 9 months. Is this
9 months. 9
weekends? Is
months.
this full time? Is it how much kind of time were you spending?
We were filming at least twice a week, and they were 3 to 4 hour sessions. After that, people get a bit tired on camera. So a fair chunk of time. And then when we weren't filming, obviously, because there's a ratio of about 3 to 1 with editing, and that's on a good day. So for every hour you're filming, you got another 3 hours to edit.
Wow. Okay.
But it was just overkill with the production value. So we had, talking head filmed on green screen, put the running the slides simultaneously. And then I'm switching between full screen and then the head down on and it was just complete overkill. As I subsequently learned, you can launch courses so much simpler and so much more effective too, because a lot of what we did was very prescriptive, which I'll get to some of my learnings in a moment. But we found some of the content didn't land in the real world because it was too prescriptive and it wasn't built with user feedback.
Gotcha. And course top, what was the course? What was this course topic?
It was called The Ultimate Guide to Renovation.
Gotcha.
And it was a renovation course for property investors.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So that happened. What was the next step, John? Was it give up? Was it a tough conversation with when you say partner, your
Yes.
like relationship partner or business
Yes,
partners?
my partner Eileen of 20 years. She was probably 19 years and touch and go at that point. But
yeah.
but yes, that old story. And the same thing at Jane's end too. She'd gone all in on this course as well. She had a mortgage broking business as well, which was a bit of a backup. And I was also working in property development simultaneously. So it wasn't the only income source, but nonetheless, it was really where I wanted to head. So I had a lot emotionally invested in getting this thing launched.
Gotcha. All right. What happened from there?
So I basically went back to what worked for us in the corporate world, in the agency world. And one of the things that I saw a lot of big companies doing was essentially what I now call customer-led marketing. So rather than talking about the features and benefits, they went and got customers and got them to talk about the features and benefits. Which is so much more powerful because it turns out that customers are much more likely to believe what a prospect says about a company or a customer says about a company more than what the company says about itself. So what I did is we put out an email. We only had an email list of 3,000 people at the time. Mostly they were Jane's email list from a mortgage broking business. So not even a very targeted list, and said, hey, listen, we're putting this group of people together. Now we'd already kind of built the course at this stage. So we've got a finished course in the can, all of that time to take.
It's still the original course. You're selling that same course.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we've got the original course, but actually went out and did a beta group for the exact same course.
Gotcha.
And so said, hey, listen, we're after 20 people. You can come along for free. It's going to be $2,400 when it's released, but you can come in for free. All we ask in return is that you give us a case study if it turns out to be everything we says it is. And so we got quite a few people apply. I think we might have had 50 or 60 people apply, and then we narrowed that down to 20 people who we thought were actually going to show up. And I think we ran the beta group for, I'm going to say 4 weeks. But crucially, what we did is we did a before interview, so a before testimonial, and then an after testimonial, which we did at the other end of it. And then from that, it had multiple benefits, purely from a promotional benefit, and I'll get to what the result of that is in a moment. It gave us the material that we needed to launch the course from the customer's perspective. So it gave us proof, essentially, which made it so much safer for people to buy it. But number two, it improved the content remarkably. Like a lot of stuff that were just blind spots for us, when we got the feedback that they didn't understand it or how that applied to their circumstances, it allowed us to tweak the content and just make it so much better. And number three, they really bought in and had ownership of the course itself. Like really were passionate supporters of the Ultimate Guide to Renovation. So when we come to launch, we had this fan base of people that went out to all their friends and colleagues and basically told people about it to the point where we'd be running ads and someone would say, oh yeah, property spruiker or something like that. And our community would jump in and defend us and say, no, I've been through that course. It's amazing, blah, blah, blah. So it was a terrific exercise and just a reminder of, starting out and testing something, getting it to work for one group of people and then extrapolating from there.
100%. Let me just get my head around this a little bit. The first time you taught the course, it wasn't a live course, right? You'd already done. Awesome. The second time you did it, it was live. Is that what you're saying?
week by week, so one module per week.
Yep.
And so they had the option, so that module became available to them. And then we did a coaching call, and we might have even done 2 coaching calls on some weeks. So the idea was they would do week one's content, and then they would hop on the call and work out how to apply it to their own situation.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Cool. That part there makes sense. So, and then what you're saying is based on that coaching call, at the end of that 4 weeks, you would then go in and revise some of the content and be like, oh, they didn't understand this. Let's take that module out. Oh, we got to go more detail here. Put that one in.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a combination of that live feedback on the call, but we also had surveys built into the course content itself within the portal, which I think we were using I remember 360 on a WordPress thing at that stage. So we had essentially a survey after every single module, which was also nice when it came to do the after testimonials, because we had a lot of detail around the individual parts of the course that we could remind people of in that testimonial.
Yeah. No, I'm a massive fan of feedback myself. So I love that. Awesome. All right. So you did that, but still no dollars at this stage, right? Because these people went through it for free.
So we had some nice brochures and a logo and a website though. But so we went back out, and this time we essentially used a launch model, essentially published some content, then let everyone know that the course was coming out, and then the sales video that we released for the day of the launch was really just back-to-back testimonials of the people talking about the course. So we had a bit of voiceover from Jane, who's very good on camera, talking about what's involved in the course, and then we would essentially cut to people talking about the features and benefits rather than saying it ourselves. And it worked really well. And I think we got 40 on that first launch, or this was technically the second launch. And then from there, it just grew, and we launched that twice a year. I think it was about 6 years in the end that we launched that course, but we had other courses in the that came off the back of that as well, which we used that exact same process of beta testing and before and after testimonials again.
Okay, 40 people. Price point, John?
$2,497.
Gotcha. Not bad. So what's that? Close to 90K off that launch? What is it?
I never do maths live, John.
Let's just call it close enough. Let's call it.
It was enough for us to keep going, and more than anything, it was just a sigh of relief, because we put so much, and it was probably more the emotional investment more than anything. We put so much into getting this thing off the ground that when it finally took, we're like, oh, thank God for that.
Yeah. Awesome. Yep. All right, cool. Well, I mean, that's a pretty cool story. There's going to be a lot of people listening to this being like, all right, all well and good for you, John, but how do I get these testimonials? What are they saying, the testimonials? Now, I believe that's what you teach. You've got a course that covers that. And I think you've got an introductory course as well that we'll put the links both in the show notes. But do you want to give us some tips? Where does someone start testimonial-wise?
Yeah, it's one of those things that everyone knows that they need testimonials, but they it's kind of like the worst kept secret in marketing, isn't it? That everyone knows they need them, but it's just the hassle factor with getting them. But they've voted as the number one B2B content marketing tool in a survey by LinkedIn. Is testimonials the number one B2B? But so it's not like they don't work. We don't not get them because they don't work. It's more the hassle factor. So the reason that I got into this was that I was working with clients doing exactly the same thing, helping them launch products and doing events and so on. And we get to the end of the campaign and there was no testimonials. And it was just happened again and again. So I said to a client, for God's sake, let me reach out to your customer and I'll do the testimonial interview, and collected the testimonials on the behalf. And then it just kind of morphed into doing it for a couple of other clients. And so I went down the rabbit hole of how can I do this properly? What's the best way that I can reach out to people and get them to say yes? And then once we've got them, to say yes, how do we capture a high quality testimonial? Because we went through a couple of iterations, even trying video capture software. So there's testimonial software that, they click the video, here you ask the question, and then they record the answer. Yep. But we had some bad experiences of that where we successfully got a lot of people motivated to give us testimonials, but the end product that we got was quite poor. They'd be quite rambly, or the backlit, or poor video or audio production. So where we went from there is we said, okay, it's got to be an interview. It's got to be an interview for a couple of reasons. One, we can control the quality, the AV quality side of things, and even things like framing, like the way you and I are framed now with just a small gap above our head. You'd look at some of these ones that came in with the software and there'd be a giant gap above the person's head, for instance. So even little things like that. But what was more beneficial from doing the interview is it just took the onus of responsibility off the testimonial interviewee and onto us to get the content. So if I say to you, hey, Jono, would you give us a video testimonial? The first thing you're going to say is, okay, what does he want? What does he want me to talk about? What am I going to say? What if I say the wrong thing? And you can't possibly know my target audience or my product, the problem it solves, or all the beats that we want to hit to promote that product. So it puts all the onus of responsibility onto you. So an interview completely fixes that.
Yeah.
And so then it just becomes part of, how do you reach out in a way that makes it easy for the client to say yes and doesn't impose on their clients. And I've kind of got 4 guidelines that I use around that. And the way I remember it is the Real Testimonial Framework, so REAL. And basically the first one of those is relationship first. Yes. So it's the idea of we're not putting everything on the line to get the testimonial. So if the person's not in the right place, or, they might have stuff going on at home, who knows? They might have deadlines that they're trying to hit. So we're not putting everything on the line to get the testimonial. And so the way we do that is just give them an easy out. So what we say is something like, hey, I'm sure you're busy. If now's not the right time, just put next time in the subject line, and please, no further explanation is necessary.
Love that.
And what we've found is that actually frees people up to send more requests, because half the time that's the problem, is they don't get testimonials because they just don't ask. Yeah. So just adding that simple element of giving them an easy out makes people feel much more comfortable about asking in the first place. So in order to get more testimonials or get more yeses, you've got to be willing them to say no.
Yeah. Love it.
So that's the first one. The E in the real stands for easy and fast. And that's really around that, having that interview and establishing clear parameters about exactly what you want and how long it's going to take, because we're all busy. If someone says to you, hey, I want you to do this, the first thing you think is, oh, how long is that going to take? Yeah. So an example we might say is, let's say that you're helping people with a book launch strategy. You might say something like, hey, I'd love to be able to share your story about how you doubled your sales using the book launch strategy. Would you be open to a 30-minute case study interview with Shelley? Warmest regards. And then we might have a PS that says something like, hey, no preparation is necessary. It's just a casual chat.
Yeah, I love it.
So what you've done there is you've essentially told them exactly what you're going to talk about and exactly how long it's going to take. So now my croc brain is not firing off on all cylinders. I'm mixing some metaphors there, but I'm going, okay, I know what that is. At least I can say yes or no to that.
Gotcha. Okay. Sounds good. A.
So that's the E. Yeah. The A is a reason why. And this goes back to a bit of psychology. But it's the idea of giving your clients a reason why you want the testimonials. And there was an interesting study done at Harvard University all the way back in 1978. And what they found was using the word because in a request increased the likelihood of compliance. And the test that they did was they got a bunch of students to cut into a line. They were lined up for a Xerox machine. This is how long ago it was. No one had photocopiers. And if they just cut into the line and said, hey, can I cut in the line in front of you? I've got 20 pages that I need to copy. They'd have a pretty low compliance. But if they said, excuse me, I've got 20 pages, may I use the Xerox machine because, and then they put an excuse because I have a class to go to or something like that, then they found the compliance shot right up. And the interesting thing was, what they said after because didn't really make much of a difference to the compliance. It was just adding the reason why that made the big difference.
Yep. Love it. I read about that. What was that book? There's a Robert Cialdini book where he covers that. Yeah,
that's right. Influence.
Yeah, that's the one. Keep going through. I'll give my take on these at the end, but I love it. Keep going through. What's L?
Last one's just larger contribution. So it's just positioning it is it's not just for your own selfish needs. I mean, our clients aren't silly. They understand that we're using testimonials to promote our business, so that we don't need to hide that fact. But it doesn't hurt just to say, hey, it would help other people in the community. So positioning it as a larger contribution is the other element that I want to try and get into every single testimonial request.
Love it. Yeah, love all of those. I look at those. Yeah, I gather a lot of testimonials myself, John. I'm more a written guy than a video guy, but I do get some videos too. But I look at all of those and I relate so much. Like, I think relationship is a big one. I look at that even just a lot of I work with a lot of fitness professionals, sort of personal trainers. And a lot of them are kind of like, oh, I feel bad asking for a review. And my kind of thing is, if you've got a good relationship with the person, it shouldn't matter. That's the way I see that one. It's like, you've got a good, like, I feel if you're embarrassed or scared to ask that question, the relationship probably isn't as close as you want it to be. And I know that might be a bit different with course creators, because if you're a personal trainer, you might be working with that client one-to-one, face-to-face. But it's a similar kind of philosophy with the course creator. Even if you're not working with that person one-on-one, there should be some kind of relationship there. If you've given them a good service, they've done a good course or product or whatever it is, like, there should be some level of relationship. So I love that. I love that easy and fast one. I do that because I've taken this one, John. I look at also from my end as well. My favorite time I don't do testimonials the same level as you, right? But whatever I do, if I'm on a Zoom call with someone, even if they say something to me where they're like, Jono, I did your course and it was so good, blah, 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 I do it right now. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, John, that's so, hey, you got a minute now? Do you reckon we could get that on video? Like, that would really help me out. I'll hide my screen and we'll quickly do it now. Is that cool with you? And then because the amount of times where I've asked someone, they've said yes, and they'll just never send it over because it's so much harder.
Silence.
They need to get their phone and get their tripod and take it and record it and send it. Like, quick and easy is the ticket. So I love that. And I find also, obviously the first ones might suck if you're doing the quick and easy way, but once you do a few of them and you do a few bad ones, you kind of realize, oh, look, I can actually do this quick and easy if I just A, B, C, D. So love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Reason why, and I love that study as well that you mentioned. I make sure I implement that with everything, whatever I'm asking. And it's quite an easy one for us as course creators. The way I use it anyway, I'm just like, hey, it'll really help me out. And I know the next point is a larger one, but even just there, hey, John, because there's a massive difference, in my opinion, between, hey, John, can you leave me a testimonial? And hey, John, look, I'm really trying to grow this online business. And the thing that's going to help me the most is testimonials. You got a few minutes. You reckon you could do that? That would help me out so much if you could just do that. Like, there's a difference. And I think it comes back to the relationship as well. If I've got a good relationship with you and I ask it appropriately and give that reason why, it's just very, very strong. It's a very strong reason for that person to do it.
It is. You want to help.
Yeah, exactly. If you've got that relationship, they want to help you. You know, it's like, how can I put it? I think if we're scared to ask for that we shouldn't be scared to ask for the testimonial, because that person, if we have that relationship, if we gave them a good service, they want to help us out. So we shouldn't feel bad at all. Like, we're almost doing a disservice by not asking them.
Yeah, I think so. That's been my overwhelming experience is people, and I think it's the law of reciprocity. If you've helped them, they want to help you back. And the hurdle is people just make it too hard for them to help. Yeah. So if you make it easy, you'll find there. I mean, I had a client recently who fantastic operator, like brought in, helps speakers, does these large events, brought in some of the biggest speakers into Australia to do events in Australia. Terrified of asking for testimonials, and I gave her that similar framework and the script there that we just went through. And I got a message from her just a couple of weeks ago that said she had 5 come in one day. Yeah. So she'd gone from being scared to ask to making it easy and asking in the right way and not feeling like she was imposing, and then boom, started coming in because people love her. Like, she's a legend in the industry, you know.
Well, agree. And so the larger contribution, I haven't used that in testimonials, but I use that in other aspects of marketing. I use that in my Facebook group. So let's say, for example, whenever I get a question about anything really, if someone messages it to me or calls me or emails me or whatever, like, my response is, hey, great question, John. Could you do me a favor? you reckon you could post that in the Facebook group?
Yes.
Because I'm sure there's all these other people in the group that have that same question as well. And I've got the perfect answer, but I'd love for everyone else to see that answer as well.
Yeah,
right.
fantastic.
And I'm doing a few of those things there as well. But like what I realized, there's a difference between, because really what I'm doing is making it easier for me. I don't want to reply to everyone individually. I want everything on the Facebook group, and I want kind of engagement in there. But if I can phrase it like that, it puts that larger contribution side of things. And I found that people are way more likely to do it if I just mention that little bit. Hey, it's not just for me. You're also helping out everyone else in the group as well. So I love that. Awesome. All right. Well, John, there's some good tips to get the testimonial, but a lot of the testimonials I see suck. Can you give us some tips on how we actually craft the good testimonial?
Yeah, same. It's disappointing. I mean, putting even the audio visual quality aside, the content in a lot of testimonials is really poor. And part of that's down to the fact that clients aren't experts at testimonials for all the reasons we outlined before. But what a testimonial really needs to be is just a little mini story. And it needs to have, to be a really good, effective marketing tool, it needs to have all of the marketing elements that we would have, for instance, in a sales letter or a VSL or a webinar or any other type of conversion tool. So it needs to enter the conversation that's going on in the prospect's mind, for one. So it needs to talk to their fears and their pains and their desires. The mistake a lot of people make is they make it about them. They want a testimonial about their onboarding process or something like that, rather than talking to stuff that actually interests prospects. So it needs to be that little mini story. The other thing about it is, depending on where it's sitting, and I kind of define customer stories in a couple of different categories. One is the short little testimonial. Now, that typically sits at the top of the funnel, where the start of the customer experience. So someone might be coming into your world for the first time to an opt-in page, for instance, or they're reacquainting themselves with you. But at that stage of the funnel, people aren't willing to invest that much time in you because they just don't know you well enough yet. So that testimonial has to be a short little punchy thing, almost like an ad, which has got a hook to it and a clear contrast before and after. So it's a little before and after story. And we all know stories are such effective marketing, or they're such effective tools for information transfer. If you think of every news item you watch at, tonight on the news, whether it be a rise in interest rate or something like that, there will be a personal story that is transferring that information. So it'll be a young family getting to their first mortgage, and this interest rate rise is going to affect their livelihood. They might be able to get a house, for example. So essentially we're using the same technique. So mini story, and in particular, what we want is a before story that has a good story is really just tension and resolution. So the tension is we make people lean forward because we want to know how it's resolved. And then the resolution is the quantifiable result that they got from doing your process or doing your course or, doing your service, whatever that is. A quantifiable result is really important because it's the difference between just an empty platitude, me saying, oh, Jono is really good, and saying, since working with Jono, within 6 weeks, we made, 15 course sales, and we're going into our second launch with a full head of steam or something like that. So that quantifiable result is a really, really important thing in copy. Copywriters always talk about specificity, hard to say, sometimes hard to do too. But yes, so we really want that clear before picture. So if for instance, if it was for you, John, it might be something like, if I was talking about getting your training about how to launch an online course, I might say something like, I really wanted to launch an online course, but I didn't know where to start, what platform to use or what lessons or how to record the lessons, or let alone how to market the course. Since working with Jono, I've launched my online course. Within 6 weeks, I've made my first sale. In 6 weeks, I made my first sale in 24 hours. So that's before and after picture. Then we would drop the endorsement after we've had that resolution. So tension, resolution, and then the endorsement. I would highly recommend working with Jono and then go on to describe why. So when you think about it, and this is the way we think in Telly too, is we just want specific sound bites. We don't want a whole meandering story going all over the place. We're just after a couple of little sound bites. And what we want is those sound bites to marry up and be relatable to the rest of our community. So that's why we just need to do that research first and be clear on, okay, who's this been targeted at? Who's our target audience? And what are their fears and their pains and their desires? And sometimes what's their beliefs that are preventing them from closing the sale or going, buying the product? Because if we can smash those beliefs with a testimonial, it's a great way to handle it.
Love that. So many good things there. Let me summarize and give some feedback there. Yeah, I love how you mentioned enter from the prospect's mind. So, and let me just make sure I've got that right. What you're essentially saying there is make sure the testimonial is about the result, not the actual course. We don't want someone to be like, oh, hey, I did this course and the PowerPoints were great and, the onboarding was great. We want it to be more like, hey, I did this course. I didn't have a course before. And then 6 weeks later, I got one. Or, I did this course and I couldn't play I was a complete newbie at the guitar before. And, within 6 weeks, I can now play this song or whatever it is.
X amount of songs or X amount of chords or whatever that quantifiable result is. And sometimes that number it's hard in some businesses to get that number, but it might just be the amount of people that have gone through the program. Any number you can wrap around that result makes it more powerful. From a prospect's point of view. There's only one caveat to that. Yes is the answer. It should be about them and not about us and our widget and our onboarding process and all the rest of it. But there is different forms of success or customer stories. There's one called a demonstration story, which would be for someone further down the funnel that's already in your world. So it's not that you can't have customer stories that feature your product. It's just you don't want to use them at the top of funnel because you don't want to be talking about yourself when prospects are really coming to you out of self-interest and they're only going to give you a minute little bit of time at the top of the funnel.
100%. That's me to the T, John. If I see a long video, if I've heard of someone for the first time and I click and it's a 30-minute video, not watching it.
No.
Right? Give me a 15-second reel. Oh yeah, kind of. Give me another 15-second reel. Okay, I don't mind this person. Now I might watch some of their longer things there. So I think, that's great there. And I love that tension resolution. Question with that, because I probably don't do the tension well enough. We need that tension because a lot of my testimonials are I did Jono's courses, I got X amount of clients. You're saying we want kind of a thing before that as well. Before I did Jono's course, I was struggling. I didn't know if my boot camp was going to be successful. After doing this course, I now had 20 new clients and X amount of, okay. Beautiful. So we need to have that tension at the start.
Because it serves as a hook. So if that prospect has that exact same problem, which you know from, you've got so much experience with working with these people, you know what their problems are and their challenges and their roadblocks. If I'm that person and I see someone coming straight out of the gate with the exact same problem I have, I'm leaning forward, I'm paying attention. And not because anything about you, because my own self-interest. So I need to, and that's why stories are such a powerful vehicle, because we tune in, the same reason we're tuning into the interest rate story on the news is out of self-interest, because it goes all the way back in our evolution. So if you can come out of the gate with a problem that resonates with your audience, then go to the resolution. The resolution's a whole lot more powerful. It doesn't seem like every other testimonial that's just really a platitude about how good the person is.
Love that. That's such a good tip. You've changed my whole testimonial strategy with just that one tip there, John. So love it. Awesome. All right. Well, John, there's some great tips on testimonials. I've got a couple questions that I always like to finish up my interviews with. Nothing necessarily to do with testimonials, but I'm going to ask them to you anyway because they're a bit of fun.
Yeah.
The first one, so this is the Course Creator Community Platform, podcast. Everyone on here is a course creator or looking to be a course creator. One of the common questions they asked is software. So I'm curious, you're a course creator yourself.
Yes.
What software do you use to host your courses, or what's your favorite software to host courses on?
Yeah, currently I use Kartra. And the reason for that is we started with WordPress, and I think it was iMember 360, and there was a couple of other plugins that we went to, and Infusionsoft, which I think it's called Keep Now. And we had just such a huge suite of software that I finished up in that business. Jane took over that business 3 years ago, Your Property Success, and I went consulting. And at that stage, I was just so sick of managing that complexity that I decided, just give me one platform that does it all. So it's a bit limited. It doesn't do everything. It doesn't do anything perfectly, but it does. It covers all the bases. So I use Kartra.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, Kartra. So that is one of the top ones I get. So I ask that question to everyone. The most common is, or the most popular is Kajabi, because
Yeah.
same as Kartra, but it's more expensive. So that's what kind of turns a lot of people off there.
Okay.
Thinkific is a popular one for people that just host courses,
Right.
right? If they're not doing the marketing, because Thinkific's pretty limited in terms of its funnels, its upsells, its downsells, its email marketing, that kind of thing there.
Yeah.
There's actually quite a lot of people. I'd say Kartra is probably number 3. So it's a,
Okay.
yeah, it's a good one.
Interesting.
All right. This next question, John, is called my $1 million question. I've
Yes.
changed name recently. So you can have $1 million cash in hand, no tax, tax free, but you can never talk about testimonials. You can never give anyone tips about giving testimonials. You can never have courses about it. Do you take the $1 million?
No, I don't think I don't think I could. I think there'd be other ways to the $1 million. I think.
Okay.
No, I don't think I could, because I've often contemplated that question when people talk about exit strategies and stuff like that. I think, well,
Yeah.
what then? You know,
Okay.
what do you do then? Because
So
I'm
that's
always going to be tinkering around doing something. And like you, I get a lot of enjoyment out of helping people and seeing that transformation in people. So I can't see myself ever not doing that.
Okay. Let me sweeten the deal. $10 million.
10 million. No, I would take it for 10 million. Yeah, no worries.
Okay. Okay. Fair. All right. Next question is around mentors. So you're a mentor for plenty of people out there that want to get better at their testimonials. I'd love to know who your biggest mentors have been in that whole marketing online space. If you could answer this in a few different ways, John, if you could give us a paid mentor, someone that you've paid, you've done their course or their coaching program, their workshop, whatever it is, an unpaid mentor, but you follow them on social media, Instagram, TikTok, podcast, whatever it is, and a book that you recommend every online course creator should read if they want to sell more online courses. So mentors, paid, unpaid, and book.
Yeah. Mentor at the top, the biggest influence on me has been a guy, marketer Dean Jackson. Don't know if you're familiar with Dean or not, but he was credited with the guy that built the original sales page, so the original squeeze page.
Okay.
But the reason that so we ponied up and went to a workshop of his in Sydney in around 2015 or something like that. It was like $5,000. It was a lot of money at the time, because we were just starting our journey, and went to him with all these problems around, we're giving them and this was actually part of the reason that got us to our really redefining the way that we do beta groups. We'd already done a beta group, but he said to us, because we're whinging about people didn't complete the course. We've got all the information in there, but they're not applying the information. And he said to us, well, what would you give them if you only got paid if you got the result?
Ooh.
And so we kind of reeled on that a bit and went back.
That's a good question, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. And I've really taken that with me, and I use that approach all of the time now, is what would I do if I only got paid if they get the result? And you could extend that by saying if they got out of their own way, or if they just let you give them what you needed to give them without all the peripheral stuff, what would you give them? And what I've discovered from that is the information really needs to be delivered like an SOP. It's just step by step, very, very linear, without the peripheral stuff, wearing the education on your sleeve. And like we said before, taking people through and getting the result. So, and because there's nothing better for marketing than actually being able to show people that have got the results. So that was probably the biggest influence on me, Dean Jackson. I think people like Jeff Walker, that product launch, that really helped us early on. So that was a huge influence on us. And probably book, I would have to say, there's been so many, but the EMyth around building systems was the thing that just joined a lot of the dots for me, in that if we invested the time to build a system and got it functioning by itself, then we could move on and shift our focus to other areas that counted, rather than just having having split focus,
Yeah, love it. So EMyth, probably one of my favorite books as well. And that's a common one that comes up.
Yeah.
1 in 10, I'd probably say the EMyth. It used to be more, but since, are you an Alex Hormozi fan at all, John?
Yes. Yeah, I don't
okay.
know his content inside out, but I bought the book and I love the way he approaches marketing. It's terrific.
Okay. So now his book, I would say, is 50-50. You
Yes,
either mention
yes.
$100 million offers or you mention another book. Before
Yeah.
that, a lot of the other books would get more plugs, and EMyth was definitely one of them.
Well
Uh,
deserved, though. Well deserved.
yeah, amazing. And your person to follow was Jeff Walker, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that has probably been the biggest influence on the course side of things, just because the we took that to essentially what we did. So his idea of launching a course is the first one is you do 4 videos essentially. The first video is about showing the opportunity. Second one is around the ownership of what it's like to use the product and do the thing, the mechanism. And the next one is around the transformation, the showing transformation. And then the fourth one is the actual sales video. So we took that and turned that into, we actually bought a house and did a renovation and used that structure on, hey, this is what you look for in a house. This is a renovation you do. Here's the before and afters. Hey, we're launching the course. You want to learn how to do this? And that was a real game changer for us.
Now, did you read his book? Did you do his course? Were you just
Did
following?
his course, Product Launch Formula, which has been around forever, and it's not. It's I don't know how much it updates each year, but it's just good fundamental marketing information too. And again, just leading with your results. He uses a lot of case studies too, so it was easy for us using that methodology because all we really had was case studies. We didn't, when we eventually got a copywriter, by the way, we got I think it was like a 30% boost on the first launch, or a 25% boost on the first. So nothing against copywriters. I think they're brilliant. And, but if you're bootstrapping it, then nothing speaks, more loudly than results.
Yeah, love it. Well, it's interesting, Jeff Walker. So I read his book probably 5, 6, 7 years ago, and I was like, this is amazing. This is the best thing I've ever read. So I went and purchased his program as well. I'd say his program, wasn't bad, but I feel the book was almost just as good.
Yeah.
It's more probably a plug to the book. I was like, this book is the best thing I've ever read. I'm just shut up and take my money. And I was like, oh, it's just like the book in a bit more detail and a few more videos. I probably could have done it with the book,
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah, sorry, you go.
no, it would benefit from being more linear step by step, because there's a lot of peripheral information in that course, which is quite overwhelming when you're starting out.
Yeah. And I think also, here's the other thing. I've got so much respect for Jeff Walker because I think he invented the launch. And he was probably the first person to do that. And I feel there's a lot of people kind of teaching similar methods now. It's essentially just a watered down version of his. It's like, okay, Jeff Walker originally taught these people who have then taught these people who have taught these people. The lineage just goes back to him. And like you mentioned, I wouldn't say his stuff is cutting edge anymore. It was cutting edge 10 years ago when he first released it or whatever. It may not be cutting edge now, but it's still not going to do you wrong. Especially that book. I recommend everyone it's $10 on Amazon or whatever. If you read that book, you're going to get some really good info. So I love that you mentioned him. All right. So we're coming to the end here, John. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are listening to this and like, okay, this guy is cool. I want to follow him. I want to take his course. I want to check out his free course. Where do we go? Where do we follow you? Where do we get the free course? Where do we get the paid course?
Yeah, getbettertestimonials.com is my course. If you want to connect with me, reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's the best place. You'll find me, John. If you type in John Hubbard, you'll see testimonials plastered all over my profile. So that's the best place.
Did you say LinkedIn? You're not a TikToker?
LinkedIn?
You're not a TikToker, John?
No, not a TikToker. I might have to get some tips off you. And that I've never been a huge social media guy, to be honest, with you. But LinkedIn is the avenue that I'm concentrating on, and I do some live events from time to time. But I'm pretty active in there with conversations and so on.
Awesome. If we want to check out your courses, we just go to the website. We DM you on LinkedIn. What's the best?
Yeah, getbettertestimonials.com, or I've actually got a script. We were talking earlier about how to reach out. I've got that exact script with all of that put together, which you can go to testimonialscript.com if you would like to, and that's just a free download. So just testimonialscript.com.
Awesome. All right, John, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover today. Was there anything I should have asked you but forgot to, or anything you want to finish us off with?
No, I don't think so. Or other than once you've got that testimonial, make sure you leverage the absolute hell out of it. Because particularly if you're capturing it in video is really an apex format, so it can be repurposed into absolutely everything. And I would be using them, you know, for instance, thank you pages,
opt-in pages,
checkout pages. If you're doing sales call, for instance, if you've got a high ticket program, get them on the thank you page after people have booked a call. Put an email sequence in place before they jump on the call and use it to position yourself and show your authority and show your credibility before that call takes place. There's webinars you can, and not necessarily using the video itself in the webinar, but you can talk to the story in the webinar and just have slides, or you can just use the audio, you know, cut down the audio from the video and put up a slide of the person with the big headline of the result. So there's so many ways that you can use it to use a testimonial to sell courses that you get a lot of mileage out of one well-captured testimonial.
Love it and agree. Awesome. All right, John, have a good day.
Thank you, Jono. Pleasure.